What's going on there, folks? Good morning, good afternoon to some out there. It is the Earthmaster here on this Wednesday, March 2nd, 2022 date, about 9:54 a.m. California time. And the latest quake out there on the Earthquake 3D globe shows a 3.1 out around the Java Trench area, Indonesia region. Quite a bit of earthquake activity happening overnight, including a pretty large 6.6 earthquake that struck into the Kermadec Trench around the Kermadec Islands there north of New Zealand. Let's go ahead and check out this activity that's occurred here about 5 hours or so ago. We had this earthquake pop up here. You can see that blue circle there indicating that most recent pretty large quake there in the region of the Kermadec Trench. This is actually right in the same area where we've seen that 8-pointer strike last year. Overnight, let's see what we have here. Well, we had a little aftershock as well following that 6.6. Like I said, this occurred about 5 hours ago. So a little bit of time has passed. We've only seen one aftershock following that 6.6, which was about 36.2 kilometers deep. 35 kilometers deep for that 5.5. Don't believe there's any type of tsunami statement issued from this earthquake here, but definitely a pretty strong one out there. We have been seeing a little bit of swarming going on. I was just checking this out real quick here. Everything was green across the board when that earthquake came in. So we have been seeing quite a bit of swarming out here with this within this region, up and down the Kermadec Trench. Of course, this area right here, a very high accumulator of major stress in a short amount of time. First, I'm going to show you guys where the 8-pointer struck. Of course, you got the 6.6 right here, right over the Kermadec Trench or Kermadec Islands area, right there on the map. I did the search back here for the 8.1 back in the last year, 2021 is when that struck, back in March it looks like. So just coming up on about a year since the 8.1 struck in this region of the Kermadec Trench. Same area, basically within the same area, maybe just a little bit more to the east than the 6.6 struck this morning. But there's been, historically, this area gets a whole bunch of earthquake activity in a short amount of time. Accumulated stress here, slip rates are super high. Speaking of slip rates, let's go back over here and show you guys a little bit of info on this subduction zone, the Kermadec Trench Tonga subduction zone. Today, let's see, we're not going to go into a lot of that. Okay, the trench formed between the Kermadec, Tonga, and Pacific Plate is also home to the second deepest trench in the world at about 10,800 meters. That is pretty crazy. The Tonga, the eastern boundary of the Tonga Plate is one of the fastest subduction zones, right? Here's kind of what I was talking about here, with a rate of up to 24 cm a year. Now, normally when we look at least a lot of maps here show the mm per year, so this is cm. When we do the 24 cm to mm, this is 240 millimeters a year. That is that's like double, almost triple what the Aleutian Trench sees, almost double, or actually over double what the Japan region sees as well during the in the Japan Trench and the Kuro-Kamchatka Trench. So this one here, basically one of the fastest subduction zones with that slip rate right there. So it doesn't take a lot of years to accumulate a high amount of stress and build up here in the region of the Kermadec Trench. Like I said, it just pulled up pretty much 7.0 and above since USGS has been keeping records, and you can see the result here. There's quite a bit of large earthquake activity throughout time there. Looks like the last from the 8.1 that we've seen last year, the prior one in this area, looks like it was back in let's see what we got here. Looks like around the 1976 time frame within the same area. And I believe we had another one as well, an 8.2 back in 1917. But either way, like I said, we could be in for possibly another 7 here pretty soon with the amount of activity that's been kicking up here in the Kermadec Trench region. I've been seeing, just like I said, quite a bit of activity here. The majority of it has been kind of shallow, which is pretty strange here. We did see, oh, that's way down south here. We did see that in the Bay of Plenty area, New Zealand, that pretty deep 4.5 that struck a couple days ago. But generally speaking, this whole area has been kind of under the gun recently. We have been seeing some swarming as well around the Hastings area, into the bay here, into the Hawke's Bay area. One thing we haven't seen is any further large-scale movement here along the Hikurangi subduction zone. I'm just kind of wondering if that will ever show its face. Maybe not, hopefully not anytime soon. Moving on past this region of earthquake activity, looking up here towards the Tonga area, did see a 5.0 prior to the 6.6 that struck this morning, and a little bit of activity west of the Loyalty Islands area. If you remember, let's go back the last 7 days here. I got to show you this deep earthquake activity that was striking out here around the Fiji Islands area. That was some major deep movement right about there. Seen some of those earthquakes down there around Fiji in this region below 600 kilometers, because where we had 2, but maybe one was adjusted. We had a 4.6 at 604 kilometers, and a 4.5 down at 563 kilometers, a little bit further south. So a lot of deep, extremely deep earthquake activity here below the surface and the crestal plates, creating that, possibly contributing to the earthquake activity that we're seeing down south here. And I think a couple videos ago I said to watch this region just due to that extremely deep earthquake movement that was taking place up here north. It does add quite a bit of strain over on the region of the Pacific Plate boundary here with the subduction zone, and it can kind of look like that rang true here for today's event. Working our way up north here, we're getting some movement along the Kermadec Trench up here with a 4.9 into the region that we've been watching here for quite a long time. This area has got to go eventually. It's been definitely been accumulating quite a bit of stress in the region. Of course, back in 2011 had that 9-pointer off the coast of Japan, but more specifically looking up here around this area, about pretty much here Japan Trench northward through this region has been pretty quiet is the word. I don't want to jinx it today, but this here's it's got to give sometime, kind of just like the west coast of California. Eventually that's got to happen too. It's been all too long for a large quake with the amount of stress and buildup of pressure there in the California region. So today 4.9 there in the Kermadec area, and also a little swarming activity overnight as well, with quite a few forests kicking off here around the Kuril Islands into the southern part of the trench here. Let's see what we got here. Mariana Trench, a little 5.0 around the Guam area, kind of towards the southern end here. That one pretty shallow though, 5 kilometers, not too deep there into that region. 10 kilometers, I think I said 10 kilometers there, around the Philippine plate. Haven't had my caffeine yet, kind of waiting on that. Gonna get that here pretty soon. Need some caffeine to function here on today's activity. China, Afghanistan, and around Iran, a little bit of activity today, earlier this morning taking place. Seen some renewed movement out here in the Atlantic Ocean as well. This came in last night around the central mid-Atlantic ridge, a 5.3, and it looks like we got some further movement this morning into the South Sandwich Islands area with a 5.0 into the subduction zone here. 35 kilometers into the South Sandwich Trench. South America, and a little bit of activity. This is from late last night. Some forests kicking off there. Not a whole lot to chat about there in that region. Puerto Rico, about the same deal. Although some activity ramping up overnight here closer to the Puerto Rico Trench. Another player in possibly producing a pretty large earthquake here. Covered that region quite a few times there in past videos. Not going to go through it again today, but definitely seen some heightened activity up here around the Puerto Rico Trench, with quite a few 3s and a 4 mixed in there at some deeper levels. The states activity in Oklahoma kind of ramping up today. Looks like at least a couple query blasts around Tulsa and further south. Looks like north of Lawton, and some movement north of Enid and Oklahoma City as well. Nothing significant, and no major movement taking place there in Texas today. Utah, this is the all magnitudes map here, kind of dying off a little bit here in the region of Utah as far as the swarming activity goes. Also Southern California not looking quite as active as it was yesterday. Of course, got to remember a lot of movement here to the west along the Pacific Plate does tend to relieve areas along the eastern part over here, and plates just to the opposite, or just to the neighboring Pacific Plate here, talking about the South America region. But yeah, not a whole lot of activity really ramping up here in Southern California. We'll get to that in a second. I do want to jump over here to the Yellowstone region and look at the activity that was kind of striking up here last night and early this morning as well. Seen a really big ramp up of earthquake activity kick up in a pretty good fashion here in the Yellowstone region. There is the 6.6 that struck right here. You can see that signature in the blue line, kind of drawn out a little bit. Of course, these seismograph stations do pick up distant earthquakes when they're that large. But as far as localized earthquake activity, definitely ramping up here. Late last night, early this morning as well, seen quite a handful of earthquakes there at Yellowstone National Park. And some of these stations went down about the time that the earthquake activity started hitting last night, such as Borehole and, well, actually both Borehole stations are offline. But this activity showing up all over the park. As far as the magnitudes go, looks like they have added some earthquake activity here. Thank you, USGS, for that. I knew it was a little bit further south. If you look on the map here, you can get a good indicator of where the earthquake activity is kind of showing up the most. And of course, Yellowstone Lake up here kind of looked like it was definitely within this region here of the Grant Village area southward, because of the spikes here on the map showing the activity in more detail. I'm going to turn off the forgot to turn off the bells. Just turn them off right now. I know some people don't want to hear bells when I'm talking, but and most of the time my voice will cover them up. But yeah, definitely a good handful of earthquakes. USGS only adding a small amount, but there's, looking at this map here, there's a good probably 50 earthquakes or so, possibly more, when you count all these individualized smaller quakes, very small microquakes, but they're earthquakes nonetheless, right? And there's a bunch of them. The ones that the USGS did count are these red significant lines, which I mentioned last night. Some of them were looking like they were in the 2 range, and that is indeed the case. Did have a 2.1 in that area of the swarming, and some other earthquake activity, a couple 2s in there, like I mentioned, taking place there in the Yellowstone region. It looks like the largest so far was a 2.2, and most of this activity occurring around there 5-6 kilometers below the surface. Pretty significant amount of earthquake activity ramping up there in Yellowstone. Looking at the last hour, or last couple hours, things kind of dying down. Looks like the last earthquake here was around the, not for sure what this activity is here. Looking at that map, I don't know if that's interference or what. I really don't see it showing up over here. Maybe slightly. There's that 6.6 again on the map, but it looks like it's been a couple hours since the last earthquake there in the Yellowstone region. But these things can come and go for sure. I want to check out the GPS stations up there, check out the see if this thing is inflating or deflating, kind of like they are mentioning. Here's a pretty cool site to check out. The Nevada station, or the Nevada agency monitoring GPS across the globe here. So I want to check out this region where the swarming is kind of taking place when it comes to GPS movements and whatnot. Looks like for the most part we're still seeing that subsidence of movement when it comes to the vertical displacement here at Yellowstone, getting that downward data coming in even to 2022. Little uptick in the northward trend, so I purely believe this is all tectonic in nature. Oops, where'd it go? Let's go back here to the didn't mean to close that out. Wanted to check out another station here just outside of the region, a little bit further up. This one's kind of, that goes to 2020. Go down south here, 2020. Some of this is very old data. Not, let's check out this one here, a little bit further south, GPS monitoring. So overall, the upward vertical displacement kind of trending down to the south. Although if you look, or to the trending down as far as the displacement goes, but it looks like towards the end of 2022 getting quite a bit of reading of uplift here. So got to see exactly where this takes us, but generally speaking, looking at most of the stations in the area here do show a subsidence of the caldera, and of course the USGS did issue an update here a few days ago about that continued subsidence. Here's another map here showing the displacement. These guys here, wow, looks like back in 2005, pretty good uplift. This is 50 mm, it looks like, topping out there. But overall, since about 2016, seen that gradual subsidence into 2022 as far as vertical uplift goes. That's kind of what we would look for when it comes to you know, volcanoes in nature, right? Just any type of inflation in a volcano is a sign of unrest. But here at Yellowstone National Park, everything looks at least like it looks like it's going down in the vertical department, which is good. So we'll watch this pretty closely as far as the earthquake activity goes. You know, these swarms come and go, and like I said, it's been, actually I just said this, didn't I? Like a day or so ago, that it's been a while since we've had a pretty good earthquake swarm, and what do you know, it kind of pops in and just wants to listen to me. Let's go over here to the west coast. Like I say, let me see exactly what these folks here had for total earthquake tally in the all magnitudes. Only about 24, and you know, 24 is pretty good number, but I counted way more than 24, probably double that number in the terms of the multitudes of quakes there. But it does take them a little while to, you know, decipher all the movement. Looking at the west coast region, Southern California, like I mentioned earlier, it has died off. Not seeing a whole lot of movement here today. This was ramping up pretty significantly all up and down the board. Most of this activity has been pretty quiet here along the board today. Only one earthquake here within the last hour around the Ridgecrest region. Looks like a 1.4, but no significant activity taking place in California today. And the 2.5 map kind of verifies that. Nothing really going on. Maybe one earthquake down here in Baja California, 3.4, and up here in Nevada, 3.5 from yesterday. But no major swarming to take note here along the Pacific Northwest or volcanoes in the Alaska area, kind of calming down as well. Like I keep saying time and time again, we always see this take place whenever we see a large-scale adjustment over here on the western side of the Pacific Plate, and that's kind of what we saw today, right? 6.6 is pretty good adjustment, but it definitely won't last long. We'll see return of earthquake movement here along the eastern part of the Pacific Plate pretty soon, but definitely still got to watch the region here into the New Zealand area. 6.6, pretty large earthquake, but these things can get much larger in the region up and down this stress, very high stressed area. Once again, the slip rate, one of the fastest subduction zones in the world, with a slip rate of 24 cm a year, and that is 240 millimeters a year. That's crazy. That's a lot of movement. All right, let's see what else we got here, folks. Tremor activity, of course, last night along the Cascadia was zip 0. Wait a minute. Did We did have 75. Where'd that come from? What did we got? Did we check the trimmer last night? Trying to think if we did. Maybe they're putting this in a little bit later, because most of the time I check this around 6 to 7 p.m. my time, and as far as I remember, there wasn't any trimmer last night, but showing some trimmer today from yesterday. Yeah, from yesterday. That's pretty crazy. So had some happening there in Oregon. 75 epicenters of trimmer in the southern end of the Cascadia. All right, we'll check it again tonight. I might have to check this, see when this comes in. All right, guys, I'm off here. Stay safe. Enjoy your day. Got a little bit of rain coming in here to California, not much. A little bit of snow coming into the mountains as well, but then again, not much. We need so much more. It's past 2 months of our winter is normally the wettest months of our wet season, and we haven't had a drop of rain in 2 months. Not a drop. And so putting us way back behind in our average for the year. We're well below normal once again, and not looking forward to another year of droughts and fire and smoke and just wildfires. It's not good. I'm getting tired of it. It's getting sickening. I'm ready to bounce out of here. All right, folks, have a good day. We will chat to you a little bit later on. Peace out. Stay safe.